My garden railway is outside on my patio and it's a ground level, so I have to get down on my hands and knees to couple and uncouple my locomotives and rolling stock. You can see there with the various hooks and chains and things. But when my hands are cold, they don't work particularly well, and if it's wet and grimy and you're getting steam blown in your face, I tried hooks and all kinds of things to put the things on, the chains on, but it doesn't seem to work that efficiently. So I've been looking for an alternative solution which is going to help me with this and provide an easier time when you're going to couple and uncouple your wagons. I was mulling over some ideas, not really getting anywhere, but then I attended the Exeter Garden Railway Show in October last year. One of the stands were selling these magnetic couplings for G-scale, and it looked promising, but after I did a bit of a test, they weren't quite strong enough. However, it set me off on the right direction. These are 3D printed. There's just a brass nail in there, just hold it together, and they pivot quite nicely, and you've got North and South Pole, and when you push them together, they come together with a nice healthy click, and you can see that they will allow for radiusing curves, etc. for your rolling stock. This set me off on a bit of an adventure. Inspired by that idea, I sketched out many different designs. When I got to about version 10 or 11, I had some small magnets, but larger magnets than in the previous size buffers there, and then just used as a working prototype some plywood, some pieces of chain. But in order to make the buffers universal, they needed to be able to swivel for the North and South Pole, so that they just wouldn't be one way around. So then I incorporated a tiny little swivel, fishing swivel there, which I thought was going to be the solution. So I went forth and purchased lots of tiny little swivels. Although this prototype version worked, it wasn't satisfactory because I did manage to get these together, and on my two pieces of rolling stock I had a 10-pound piece of lead which it pulled, but any kind of shock load or movement around the rest of the train would have pulled them apart. So the idea was good, but the magnets were too small, so I had to look at using larger magnets. My other area of concern with this prototype were the swivels. These were rated at 8 kilograms, but just seemed a little bit too weak. So I was looking for something larger. Version 12 was some 2mm PVC sheet which I had left over from another project, and two 8x5mm magnets, interference fit, push fit into the plastic, and then covered in heat shrink. That kind of worked, but the linking mechanism started to become too complicated, so I then looked at alternative solutions. Whilst working out the length of chain required from the buffers and attachment points on the locomotives and rolling stock, I wondered if I could make a larger loop using a nail. And as I was wondering how this was going to work out, there was an anvil fell on my head, because if I were to drill and countersink the plastic sheet, as you can see in there, with a hook on the other side there, I had just solved my swivel issue. And so version 13 was that bit and then that bit sandwiched in front of it, kind of like that. And that was going to be the prototype I was going to develop as version 13. So version 13B looked like this. This comprises of one piece of 2mm PVC sheet, 8mm holes with magnets pushed in, and on the rear side you can just see the two pieces of sheet there. The rear one is countersunk with a hook at the back, Then I knew these magnets were going to move, and trying to get things to stick and glue, it didn't look promising, so I came across the idea of using heat shrink to hold the magnets in place. And also, because the magnets want to move sideways as well, just by sealing the ends, that will stop the lateral movement. I don't know how long these will last, but we'll see with the test of time. Remembering that the magnets had to be fitted in with a north and south pole, magnets being magnets, they started to misbehave. So the first magnet went in with a bit of a push fit, but the second one needed the use of the small knockometer. In fact, this end of it, just to push the magnets in, but they were prone to being mischievous and jumping out and doing things I didn't want them to do. However, to tame them, if you get a piece of steel strip like this and attach it, then you'll find that the magnets will behave. So that's a way you can nullify the effect of the magnets so they don't go around grabbing anything. When it comes to installation, I plan to use the existing hook here, which I'll bend down, a link of chain there, and then the hook at the back. This will give sufficient movement for any R1 radius curves and sufficient distance for the rolling stock and the locomotives. I can paint in the bit at the back there, which is just where the heat shrink didn't fit. That should work fine, but that will be tested in due course. As development progressed, it started to give up its secrets about how to make them cheaply, inexpensively and efficiently. One area I'm looking at right now, which will be 13D, is that the distance between these two magnets is currently 4mm. So I had a look to see if I could get them to work at 1mm, and actually they work fine, bearing in mind that there's one north and one south pole, and you still need to be able to rotate them. And even with the ones at 4mm, they still work absolutely fine, so I can make them a little bit more quickly and efficiently. And so to initial testing of the magnetic couplings using two of my scratch-built wagons, I have attached the couplings, drilled a hole through there, made a secure fastening with some links. Similarly on this side here, so it's all secure. And as I bring the trucks together, okay, they sometimes go like this, but that's easy enough to do. You twistle them around and they end up catching like that. Far easier than putting a chain on. And they go backwards and forwards quite nicely. I do have here a 10-pound block of lead, which I shall put onto there. And I've moved these backwards and forwards, and it doesn't come undone. It's easier to derail the trucks than it is to separate this. On a test run, I did manage to separate it. I'll see if I can do it, but it was quite a severe jerk this time. Okay, it separated then, but that was probably getting on for 10-15 pound pull, more than ever it would experience actually in use. So I'm very satisfied with that. Next, we'll see what it performs like on the R1 curve. So here we are established on an R1 curve, plenty of space for both the trucks to move. I consider that to be a success. Further testing to follow once I can relay my track. I hope you found this video of interest, and it may provide a solution to grubbing around on your hands and knees on a wet, cold afternoon, trying to enjoy trains but can't get the wagons and locomotives coupled and uncoupled with ease. Please give me any comments you have. Let me know your solution to the same problem.